Welcome to what we watched last weekend. I'm Lady Shasha, mistress of the snark, connoisseur of the gore, and your hostess with the mostest. And I am joined by Tonyman 100, whose tag underneath his name says "First place just feels right."
That's right, because we won last week.
Oh,
We
okay.
beat the Minnesota Vikings.
Shall we get into Shelby Oaks, spoiler free?
Sure. This one will be fast for me.
Yes.
So, you want me to go first?
Sure.
Uh, what I liked about it is they put something on film. Somebody had an idea. The only problem I had with it was that it didn't know what it wanted to be.
Hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It didn't know. I mean, what is this? Is not a spoiler, but it's like it started out with a. It started out as a found footage. Then it went to a documentary. Then it went to a regular movie, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then I didn't understand the ending at all. But we'll talk about that. So, I mean, yeah, there you go. That was my what I liked and what I didn't like.
I liked it a lot, actually. I was very entertained by it.
I know
I
you did.
I
Any movie that
thought,
makes you jump more than
oh yes.
once makes you love. This movie made you
Um,
jump 3 times.
yeah, it had some great scare scenes. It had some creepy suspense. The visuals were very, very creepy at points. They weren't all creepy. Like there's one particular entity that I felt like mm, there's something that's just not creepy enough about it. It looks better when it's in shadow than when they actually show it. The shadow of it looks way creepier than when they actually kind of show it. But
Yeah.
I will agree that it is multiple things. I wrote in my notes that the beginning of the movie reminded me a lot of Blair Witch, the Blair Witch Project, actually.
Right.
And then when it got to be more documentary style, it reminded me of Lake Mungo. But
Right.
then once the story unfolded, it reminded me of The Omen.
That's
So
what. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like multiple things going on here. But as a whole, it's still an original story because I didn't know where it was going until the end of the movie. Like maybe the last 10 minutes of the movie, I was like, oh, okay, this is where we're going. Because before that, I didn't know where it was going. And I
Yeah.
like that. I like not knowing, I like not predicting what's going to happen in
Well,
a movie.
to be honest, there was one little twist in it that I was like, oh,
Hmm.
which I think you know what I'm. We'll get into spoilers, but that one twist that I was like,
Hmm.
oh wow, that's still there.
Hmm.
I thought that was not there anymore, but it's still there. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yep.
But other than that, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was all right. I did like there was a little bit of blood,
Hmm. Yeah, just a little bit. There
but
was
I
some, there
feel
was
like
the grossness came more from like conditions of a certain property and also a character that just looked really grody. But
what's funny is what you said about they could have kept it in the shadows,
mhm,
kind of like picture what the hell was it? It's not. I want to keep calling it Elixium, but I know it's not that.
the elixir.
No, not the Elixir. That other movie we saw that you freaked out that you couldn't sleep for the whole day because of that
Oh,
creature.
Traumatica.
Traumatica. Remember,
Hmm.
they didn't show the creature that much. He was all that thing was always in the shadows, but you
Exactly.
can kind of see the silhouette.
And that's what kept on keeping me up at night. Every time I closed my eyes to go to sleep, I kept seeing that silhouette and it was so creepy to me.
Right, but this one they showed,
Hmm.
and I was like, ah, all right.
Yeah, when it was just in the shadows, it was super creepy. Then they showed it too much, and I was like, this design is not scary enough for you to show it that much. Well, to me,
Exactly.
like I usually say, your mileage may vary. Fear is a very subjective thing. What scares some people doesn't scare other people. Like, for example, with me with gore, I love gore, but some people are extremely freaked out by seeing anything gory in a movie.
Well, not a lot freaks me out,
Hmm.
like movie wise,
Hmm.
because I keep telling myself it's only a movie. You know, like
Hmm.
that movie
Yeah, yeah.
tagline. I
Hmm.
don't get scared because there's real shit to be scared of. A movie's not going to scare me.
Hmm. Do you have
Go
anything else to
for it.
say that's spoiler free about Shelby Oaks?
There was a hand holding a tape. That's it. I'm looking at the picture right there. Let me think. Let me think. Let me think.
You did mention something about the camera work.
I did say the camera work was pretty good, but that's gonna have to be a spoiler because there was one certain part that
Mm-hmm.
there were a couple things that were bothering me.
Tom Baker says that Stuckman reviewer. Yes, this movie
Yes,
is written and directed by Chris Stuckman. He actually does have a co-writer. Let me pull up the co-writer's name because I want to give that
it's
person the
funny
credit as
because
well.
it said the co-writer's name, right, and then it
Mm-hmm.
said written and directed by Chris Stuckman. So the first one said written by, and it said two names, and then right after that it said written and directed by. And I looked at it and I was like, wait a minute, how does he get two writing credits?
Okay, because Sam Liz has a story by credit and Chris
Okay,
Stuckman has a screenplay credit.
I
So
got
story
okay.
by is a little bit different from screenplay. And also one of the producers on this was oh gosh, what is the dude's name? I was just talking to you about Mike Flanagan
Yes,
is one of the producers on this. And I was telling you that he is known for The Haunting of Hill House, which I really, really liked. I did not care for Midnight Mass. I enjoyed Doctor Sleep. I enjoyed The Fall of the House of Usher. I watched that 2 times over.
yeah, you watched it with me. You told me to watch
Mhm.
it.
Yep. He also did Gerald's Game, Ouija, Origin of Evil, Hush,
wait,
Before I Wake,
wait.
Oculus.
Didn't we see Ouija Origin of Evil in the movie theater and it sucked?
No, that was the first Ouija movie.
Oh
Ouija Origin of Evil is a sequel to that first Ouija movie that sucked. The first movie sucked. It was a different director, and then he made the sequel, and he made the sequel so much better than the
no,
first one.
no, we saw one recently.
Oh no,
Oh,
no,
that was
that
Witchboard.
was Witchboard. That was the
Oh,
Witchboard
well,
remake.
what? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That one was
that one was terrible.
horrible.
Yes, it was absolutely terrible.
To be honest, the one thing
Mhm,
I'm saying, if you're a movie reviewer
mhm,
and you criticize movies, so you review movies, correct?
yes.
You know what you like and what you don't like,
Mhm,
or what the audience might like and don't like.
mhm.
That's all I'm saying. It's just some of the stuff I was like scratching my head, like this is a plot hole, or this is like, why are we doing this? For a first timer, it wasn't bad.
No.
I mean, it held my attention.
I know what you're talking about not necessarily a plot hole, because I didn't find plot holes, but I did find moments where I was like, why is this person doing this specific thing?
Yeah,
But I was placing myself in their place and going, that's some shit I would never do. But for the purpose
yeah,
of the
yeah.
movie and advancing the story, that's some shit that that person would do and did do. So okay.
So wait,
Um
spoilers when they come out. I have questions.
yes, yes, yes. Let me put my little bumper in and we were going to come right back and get into the spoilers because I don't think we can talk anymore without getting into spoilers for both these
No.
movies.
Now on with the show.
We have to get into Shelby Oaks spoilers.
Time waits for no man.
Let's get to it. And I included a picture of Chris Stuckman as he appears to us when he is a YouTube movie reviewer. So people can remember who. I mean, I'm sure people know who he is. I'm quite sure he has like over 1 million subscribers, right? I know he's pretty big.
So yes,
But
we went to see this in a movie theater. They
mhm.
put it in a 50-seat movie theater, and we still had
Theater.
to sit in the front row.
Yeah. Which was not true because when I turned around when we finished the theater was not filled.
Really?
I think he meant that maybe that yeah, because when I turned around there was like maybe 20 people in there.
So then we could have moved.
Yeah. I should have turned around earlier, like during the previews or something, and we could have
Yeah.
moved back. But we were in the front row. The seats, it's a brand new theater. The seats are meant to be cushy, but the way the maybe because of my height, because I'm short, where the pillow was on me was hurting my back. So I had to take my hoodie and roll up the hood and put it underneath my neck as a cushion, so I wouldn't have back pain. Because I was so uncomfortable sitting in those seats. You would think they'd be really comfortable because they're recliners and they're real cushy, but it wasn't. It didn't feel good. But anyways, Shelby Oaks. Um, Shelby Oaks is named after a town, basically, that's pretty much deserted. And it starts out first kind of being similar to Blair Witch Project, only for a YouTube, I guess, generation. I don't want to call it, that sounds corny, but the main character's sister is part of a ghost hunting crew that they do YouTube videos, and they go to different abandoned places and do ghost adventure type stuff. But what happens is there's 4 of them and they do these ghost adventures, and then one day they just disappear. Similar to Blair Witch, where the Blair Witch crew were doing a documentary about the Blair Witch and then they just disappeared. So that's what made me make that connection. But then after that happens, it switches to more of a documentary format where they're doing interviews and they're talking about these missing 4 people and where they were last seen and what they were trying to do. And that would make you think of something like Lake Mungo, which is done in a documentary style. And I really liked the beginning of this, how it started out. I thought it was interesting. It made me almost forget I was watching a movie, and like my mind flipped onto documentary like mode, because I was like, oh, I'm watching a documentary, and then I remembered, oh no, this is a movie. That's when the title card pops up. You don't get the title card until maybe 30 minutes. Did it feel like that? Maybe 20 or 30 minutes, Tonyman, before we got the title card.
Yeah, about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It was after the found footage,
Mm-hmm.
and then after the documentary, because remember it was like they were doing B-roll, and that dude knocked on the door, and he said, "She finally let me free," and she shoots himself in the head.
Yep.
But when the dude shoots himself in the head, they show it from like 2 different angles. So my first problem is this woman, the sister, is well, she finds out that after he gets shot, she looks down and he's got like a little mini DV cam in his hand, and it says Shelby Oaks on it. So she grabs it and she goes right to the her DV cam and she plugs it in and starts watching it. Meanwhile, after the man shoots himself in the head in front of her, she has blood all over her face, all over her neck, everywhere. And you would think that she would wash it off before she watched this stupid tape. But no, she left it on as she's watching this tape. And I leaned to Lady Shasha and I said, when is she going to wash the blood off her head?
Exactly.
Because it didn't make any sense.
She does a bunch of things that I would never do. Like when she decides she's going to go look for her sister, why does lady go and visit a haunted penitentiary at night by herself with just a flashlight? Who does this?
With a 1960s flashlight that looks like
I don't even
connected to a car battery.
I don't even know where she got that old flashlight from.
It was it looked like it was connected to a car battery, and she was holding it. And she goes
like
into
it was left over from the set of Jaws. That's how old
that
flashlight looked.
Right, and she goes in there, and here's the problem I have: both of them, because the first sister goes in there, and she's talking. And she's staring into the empty cell because they're doing a ghost hunt. And her breath, like you can see her breath, like she goes, I feel cold. Right? Same thing happens to this woman. And they don't explain where the coldness comes from. Because it's not from the demonic creature thing.
They don't have to explain the coldness because it's pretty much known that when there are like spectral occurrences, that the temperature goes down. This has been established since The Exorcist in 1973. If you remember, when they went in that room with Reagan, you could see Father Merrin and Father Karras' breath.
But that wasn't a paranormal. That was a devil.
What was this?
I don't fucking know. It was
It was
something.
also a demon.
That
They
was
literally
no,
said
it
those are
was
his
not.
devil dogs. It was
No.
a type of demon, and they said what type of demon it was. It was an incubus, which is a
So
type of
then,
demon, and it said in those dogs were its devil dogs.
okay.
You didn't hear them talk about the devil dogs?
Every time you say devil dog, I think of devil
Oh, I'm
dog's
sorry.
hostess,
I'm sorry, they didn't talk about it.
the hounds of hell.
It was in the articles that she was looking through when she went to the library and she was looking through the microfiche. You had to read what the articles were saying.
Oh,
And it was the articles talked about the incubus, and there was drawings of the incubus in the book, and then it talked about its devil dogs. It was all done when she was doing her research. You had to read what the articles
well.
said.
Anyway, well, let me just say when she was watching this DV cam footage that was like never seen before footage of Shelby Oaks, right? They I'd lost my train of thought. Oh my god.
Wait. Before you do that, that's how you was watching the movie, right?
Yeah.
And this is how I was watching the movie.
Yeah, I was. You were into this.
Yes, I was into this. I was taking it in. I was taking mental notes.
You were definitely taking mental notes. I was just sitting there going. I was more questioning, like, why the fuck would you do this? Why would you do that? What is going on? Like, even it went. So if it's a devil, so you're telling me the fat old lady was a devil worshiper?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay, it's okay.
She was in a cult because when the girl went into the old lady's house and she found the photo album, she saw the pictures of the cult pictures, and she saw her sister's cult wedding picture in the cult pictures, and then all the different pregnancies that she had that ended up in deaths, and that's what all those little graves were, because the incubus demon was trying to get born onto Earth.
I didn't even notice the little graves. What? I was literally staring at the screen.
Out. You were zoning out.
I must have, because I don't even remember seeing the little graves. I don't remember it at all.
It was in the photo album. When she flipped through the photos, there was photos of her sister being coerced into being in a cult wedding with the serial killer guy who was possessed by the demon. And in the photos, there's pictures of her sister being pregnant multiple times. Then it cuts to photos of the graves that I'm putting two and two together and saying that those are the children that didn't survive.
So that fat old lady was her son? That was her son?
That was her son. That was the serial killer that went to prison. And
did she bang him too? Because the way that they showed a picture, he looked all weird. Like I was like, oh, are they incestual? Is this incestual? What is going on? That's exactly what I was thinking in my head. What is literally going on right now?
Yeah, I don't even know. Like it was just, she was just a weird old lady that was, I think she was also maybe possessed, because if you see in that picture in the bottom, her eyes are glowing too.
Yeah.
So
and the thing was behind her the whole time.
Yes, it was. It was like controlling her. The incubus was controlling her. You know what the female version of an incubus is?
A succubus.
Okay, I was just doing it. Oh, you know what? BC put it in the comments here.
But
the incubus, the succubus, loud tantric words, the burbs.
But I know the succubus because you told me about it a long time ago. But the see, every time I get my thought, you distract me for a second. Oh yes, another thing I did not like was when she's looking at the videos, the sister, and she spots something and she rewinds it and looks again and rewinds it. I guess we're supposed to see some sort of creatures in the background.
You could see the shadow of the creature over.
I
was trying to point it out to you that it was over her shoulder. I don't know why you couldn't see it.
I couldn't see because it was grainy footage.
I could see it clearly over her shoulder.
But the one thing I did say that when they first did her, she was like, "I'm scared. I'm in this house." The younger sister, the one that got kidnapped. When she was like, "I'm scared. I'm in this house." I kept looking at that window.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that would have been a hell of a great scare right there. Like if you didn't have something in the background, but you just like you hear the crashing,
Mm-hmm.
and as she's looking there, all of a sudden you see something just form in the window, like that you can see, and that we didn't have to go to a replay and see
Mm-hmm.
it. That would have been great, but didn't happen.
Well, they showed it towards the end.
Yeah, I know they did, but it just okay. So I'm sorry.
So
Poor
as you
John
were,
Josh.
so as you were watching Shelby Oaks, you didn't understand what was happening. Is what I'm
No,
hearing. Okay, so
no.
let me recount it to the people who are interested. Like I said, it starts out like Blair Witch. 4 people doing ghost hunting. They disappear for a year. I think it's 13 or 16 months, something like that. And then their bodies, 3 of them, their bodies are found, but the 4th one is never found. And of course, people are tagging up places saying whatever happened to, I forget the young lady's name.
Or justice for.
Yeah. And so that goes on for 12 years. And so her sister decides after that man shows up on her front porch and says, she finally let me go. And then he blows his own brains out. The sister decides, I'm going to try to find her for myself because the police are going to say it's open and shut since this serial killer killed himself on my doorstep. They're going to say, oh, well, the killer killed himself, so we don't have to look anymore. But she's like, I'm still going to try to look and try to find my sister. So she ends up going back to Shelby Oaks, the ghost town that is pretty much abandoned after the prison closed down. The only 2 things they really had in Shelby Oaks was a prison and a amusement park. And both the prison and amusement park closed down. So it's pretty much a ghost town. So she goes over to the abandoned prison in the middle of the night by herself with only a flashlight. She gets up in there. She finds the cell that the serial killer stayed in because she had talked to, I forget the character's name, but he was played by Ernie Hudson. I think it was Ernie Hudson. No, it wasn't Ernie Hudson. It was, I always confuse them. It was the other dude. The dude from They Live.
Yeah.
He was in They Live and he was in The Thing.
And he was also in something about Mary. No.
Yes, he was. Why do I always confuse him with Ernie Hudson?
David Keith.
Keith David. Yes.
Keith David.
She interviews Keith David, who used to be the warden at the prison. He's the one that tells her what cell to go to. So she takes her behind over to the cell of the serial killer that blew his brains out on her front porch. And when she's in the cell, that's when you can see her breath because obviously the place is haunted. But as she looks through the cell window, she notices that there's a clear view from that cell to the amusement park that she and her sister used to go and play at all the time. And then she feels weird, so she takes a step back and she looks down and sees that there's like footprints of a person was always standing there staring out the window at the kids at the amusement park, which is creepy.
See, should be proud right. But that's where I got lost because the footprints, right?
Yes.
It indicated to me that something was on fire and that the person was like, but hear me. Do you know what I mean? And because the way she looked at the walls, and the walls are all black and brown, and so I thought somebody caught fire in there.
That wasn't. That was mold. Because the mold also shows up in the old lady's house. I'll get to there though. So she sees her breath, still does not leave the cell, and then as she hears a noise behind her, and that's when she finally runs out of the cell, and she's sitting on the side of the cell, and one of those devil dogs barks at her, and then you see the demon's hand grab the dog's collar, and she books it out of the penitentiary. So you think, okay, she's gonna take her ass home. No, she continues looking around the what do you call it?
The woods,
but also the fairgrounds. She goes over to the fairgrounds.
Oh yeah,
and continues looking around there until she sees another dog, and she decides to follow that dog over to this old house, and that's where she meets this old ass lady who's pretty gross looking. And everything in the house is moldy, including her. And she invites her to come in and eat some crackers, and she's like, "No, I'm good on the crackers." But she's trying to figure out what's going on and why she found this dog. Why she found this dog? Because
that can of crackers looked so old. I was like, yes. Who the fuck is eating this? But yeah, be on the lookout for Lady Shasha's new costume cosplay.
Yeah, I'm not dressing up like that lady. I can't do it. It's too gross. even for me. So she says to the old lady, "Oh, well, first the old lady talks to her about her son, and it's like, oh, she said, did you live here by yourself? And the old lady's like, no, my son stays here with me, and he's right there over your shoulder." And she turns on, looks at the photo, and the photograph is of the serial killer dude with his mother, and like a Olin Mills type portrait. And so she's like, you know what? I think I do want the crackers. So the old lady goes back in the kitchen to get the crackers, and she walks over and looks at the photo album. When she opens the photo album, that's where she discovers pictures of her sister being married to the serial killer and trying to have all these spawn of the devil babies that didn't survive. And then she's like, when the old lady comes back, she's like, you tell me where my sister is right now. So the old lady is like, okay, I'll show you where she is. And she opens up this root cellar, which I hate root cellars. Ever since Evil Dead, root cellars are creepy. So I would never go down into a root cellar ever, ever, ever. So because this lady does all the things that, yeah.
I never knew that.
I think they're called that because you can see the roots of trees down there. That's my guess of why they're called root cellars. But this lady, like I said, she does all the things in horror that you wouldn't do. Goes to abandoned penitentiaries at night by herself. Walks through the woods. Goes to abandoned amusement park places by herself at night. Follows dogs through the forest at night to weird houses. And now she's going into a root cellar with a creepy old lady by herself. All the things I would never do, but shout out to her because it advances the story and it's creepy. I can't say it wasn't fun to watch. I enjoyed watching it. I just would never do some shit like that. So she goes down her.
I was gonna say, I said this to you in the movie theater, but when she was in, the only thing I was thinking of when she was in the jail cell, I said that I wouldn't have been like scared and ran. I'd have been like, you motherfucker, what'd you do with my sister? Like, be angry. Don't be like, But then she got angry when she saw the old lady.
Yeah.
Because she found out her sister was still alive.
Yes. So she finds her sister in captivity in the basement, locked up. And she unlocks her sister and gets her out of there. She's running up the stairs, followed by the old lady. And the demon is like standing right behind the old lady. But when she gets upstairs and almost gets her sister out of the door, her sister kind of jukes her and runs upstairs. And she's like, what the hell? I'm trying to save you. So she follows her sister upstairs and finds there is a living baby up on the top floor. And her sister runs at the baby, but the old lady's already over the baby. And she cuts her arm open and bleeds all over the baby and says some type of divination saying, I'm going to give you all the power of, I don't know, whatever. She said some kind of type of stuff while she bled all over the baby, and then she passes out. And from there, it just cuts to they're at the hospital, and the sister is being like taken care of, given fluids because she's like severely dehydrated and stuff, and the baby's being taken care of. And then they eventually go home, and we find out when the sister ran up there, she was running up there to kill that baby because she was telling her sister that baby can't survive. So she tries to smother the baby with a pillow, and her sister tries to stop her. And while they're wrestling, she knocks her baby sister out the window, the one she just saved from being locked up in the basement. She gets knocked out the window and breaks her neck so she can't get up. And the devil dogs tear her apart. And then the camera pans up into the window, and the lady is just there with the incubus demon. His hand is on her shoulder, and her eyes change into being like that old lady's eyes. So now she is being controlled by the demon.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Great recap. I just toned out while you were doing that recap.
Oh my gosh! I'm not explaining to you again.
You don't have to
watch this episode.
Yes, I can. But okay, so I have plenty of questions too. But first of all, thank you for the very concise and very slow talking recap there.
Was I talking fast again?
You just went through the whole movie in like 5 minutes. You were like, like, yeah, you really did. But you did it again, and I bet you thought you were talking slow.
I thought I was talking at a normal pace.
Nah,
For the way
nah,
my brain works, that's the way my thoughts are.
nah, you were going pretty fast. But no, not now. See, I got now my ADHD kicked in because I forgot what the hell I was gonna say. Um, yeah. Let me think. I first of all, how did you not notice that baby?
What?
Did you?
Did I
You
notice
didn't.
what about the baby?
The olive complexion and the black curly hair from this blonde woman and
Oh,
this
well,
bald white dude. Okay.
well, hey, they got whatever baby they could get to work.
That
Okay.
baby had hair that was curly as hell.
Just because the baby looked like a Puerto Rican doesn't mean nothing. It was a cute baby. It was an adorable baby.
That just because I said in my head, I said, "Now whose fucking baby is this?" That's exactly what I said to myself. Because
Mm-hmm.
in the baby would see, I'm overthinking this movie.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yeah, what did you like? So did you like it?
Yes, I did.
What the hell are you grabbing with your microphone far away?
I dropped something on the floor. I just picked it
Oh,
up.
so you did like it.
Yes, I liked it a lot. I liked that it was not a sequel, not a requel, that it was an original story, that I did not know how it was going to end. I like the scares because it did make me jump several times. Um,
It
I
definitely did.
Yeah, the only thing that takes me out of it is just this character doing things that I wouldn't do, like going to these places at night by herself with just a flashlight. It's just I couldn't reconcile that with myself. Like I would never.
I wanted to see a titty monster when she went in the basement. Because when she went in the basement, I was expecting to see the titty, like something.
Like barbarian. You
Yeah.
wanted a
So
barbarian. You
you know
wanted
what?
castle freak.
I'm so glad that we that now that we're talking about this movie because I know why I zoned out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I was thinking when she was in the basement? I thought about the titty monster, right? And
Yes.
then I said, "How did this get to go into the movie theater?" But VHS Halloween, I'm like VHS Halloween. This is what I'm thinking. VHS Halloween would have been awesome in a movie theater. That
Mm-hmm.
would have been dope. And then I was like, "Oh, this movie's already over." I was literally thinking about VHS Halloween on a
Mm-hmm.
big screen like that. It would have been awesome as hell. Because I thought about the titty monster, but then I thought about VHS Halloween because of the six-tittied monster.
Oh yeah.
So that's where my mind went, and then I
Mm-hmm.
started thinking of the other sections of the movie that would have went great on that big screen. And then I looked up and I saw the girl get pushed out the window, and then I saw Devil Dog's Eater.
Mm-hmm.
But my one question that I kept thinking was, okay, so when she looked at this TV cam, she
Mm-hmm.
saw what happened to. You jumped at that too. She saw what happened to one of the white dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Got fucked up by that dude,
It looked like
right?
he got his head ripped off, but I couldn't tell.
Right, and then another one, but
Mm-hmm.
we still don't know what happened to the black girl.
They didn't show her death. They just showed the aftermath. They showed her
Yeah,
lying there all bloody, but
they
they didn't
did.
show how yeah. During the documentary part of the movie, when they were recounting how
Yeah.
they found the people, they showed photographs of the people's bodies.
Oh, so they did show her.
You just really checked out during any informational part of the movie where there was documentary, where there was newspaper clippings and microfiche articles. Like, you are that person that I mean, I hate to say it, but I get upset when movies spoon feed information, but you are that person that needs a character to say, hey, this happened because of this. And in my mind, I'm going, why are they stating the obvious? It's for you.
Not really.
Because you're
I
not going
would.
to read the article. You're not going to look at the photographs that are being shown. It's called visual storytelling.
I don't have enough time to read a fucking article that
You're
someone
like,
puts on a microfilm.
You're like, I just need dialogue to tell me everything.
Yeah, pretty much. or like like if they insinuate something, I can understand it. But
But when a
I'm not.
character
Listen, I
for
didn't
future
read Michael.
for future reference, when a
Mm-hmm.
character is looking at a newspaper in a movie, typically the headline has something to do with a plot point in the movie.
Yeah, I know. I would look at the I would look at the headline, but I'm not gonna like read the entire article because I
Well,
don't have
no,
enough time.
you just needed to read the headlines.
There were no head. I mean, they were happening so fast because, unbeknownst to her, I don't go through a micro. What is it called? Microfiche.
Microfiche. That's when back in the
Yeah, I
olden
don't.
days. Back in the
I
olden days,
know.
if you wanted to look up newspaper articles or magazine articles, they might be kept on a microfiche at the library. So you'd have to go and find the little reels of microfiche and scroll through the articles. Nowadays, for anyone that's maybe younger, millennial, Gen Z, or younger than that, you don't have to do microfiche anymore because you have Google. You could
I
just
mean,
Google articles.
I've used. I actually no. In the Harvard Public Library, they had newspapers. They were like still newspapers.
Yeah, but they
Like if you
can't
wanted
keep
to,
Yeah, but they can't keep newspapers for like 50 years worth
we
of.
never had, but we never had that thing where you put the film and it goes and it like flips through so you can read fast. It was like a screen, like the one that your mom has in the
Mhm.
kitchen. It's like that, and then you would put the film underneath it
Yeah,
and look,
and
and
it
then
projects.
right, you don't get to like fast
You
forward
can't
to it.
you
And
can't
she was like
scroll.
clicking, she was scrolling through that shit so fast. I can't read that fast.
Mhm. Sandy says, oh wait, let me go back up here. So BC says, gang, we still need to find the opening intro. I'm thinking about where it starts in a cemetery and goes up a hill and ends up at a house. Late 80s, early 90s. We'll have to look for that. Tom Baker says somewhere in the near future and now the review of Lady Shasha's debut movie, thrilling and captivating. Oh yeah, I wish. CJ says, I know exactly what you're talking about, BC, but no idea what channel or year.
Could it have been the movie channel?
I don't know. And CJ also says Titty Monster. Sandy says, but you know, Tess in Barbarian was doing a lot of things that I would never. Yes, I agree with that. But I rooted for her every step of the way. Come on, Tess. She was a great character. Tom says Tonyman is comic relief. And also, he's the Jerry Lewis to Dean Martin. Oh, that makes me Dean Martin. That's cool. You know who Dean Martin is?
No. Who is he?
I was gonna say Jamie Lee Curtis's father, but then I
Shasha.
remembered
I
no,
know
that's Tony.
who the
That's
fuck
Tony
Dean.
Curtis. No,
I know who
I was
Dean Martin
confusing.
is.
I was confusing Tony Curtis with Dean Martin for that.
But I know of Dean Martin, Shasha.
Yes,
I do.
Part of the Rat Pack.
Next thing you're gonna tell me, water's wet.
All I know is when that came on, I was in for a good time because it was a horror movie. That's what BC says about that intro. CJ says, I once used microfiche and it's a pain in the. Yep, it is. BC says, microfiche were so cool. Are you at sliding in that little disc licking thing and you would scan across tons of information? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I never really used the microfiche because I nerded out and I would read almanacs.
Yeah, but the almanacs don't provide you with the information you need from articles from certain events.
True.
That's like saying I have all the information because I read an encyclopedia. Encyclopedias are even
I used
limited.
to.
Which, fun fact, do you know what Google was originally supposed to be?
Yes, an encyclopedia.
Yes, an online encyclopedia. But as far as Shelby Oaks is concerned, I had a good time watching it. I recommend it if you like supernatural stuff. I mean, if anyone's still listening to the spoiler review, if they haven't watched it, I think it's still worth a watch.
Wait for it to come out on video.
Yeah, I would say yeah. But again, great first movie for a first-time director, a first-time full-length feature director, because he has directed shorter projects. So with that, we will see you tomorrow. Thank you for stopping by, and have a good night.
See you mañana, folks. Bye.